In the isolated southern waters of Johor, Malaysia, stands a new city. Built on a reclaimed island are dozens of skyscrapers. However, weeds have taken over the unfinished buildings. There are hardly any people at midday. Occasionally, you may see abandoned playgrounds and discarded cars. As night falls, only a few scattered lights illuminate the towering buildings. This is Forest City, a large real estate project developed by one of China's largest property developers, Country Garden. Now it has another nickname, the most expensive ghost city in the world. In late March, a Chinese blogger visited Forest City in person. Let's see what this legendary ghost city really looks like now.
Finally, I've come to Country Garden's Forest City. Until now, I've only seen it on TV. Although there are flowers and plants planted upstairs, it feels like they are growing wildly without being taken care of. Look at how the plants have grown here. The ivy is almost blocking the windows. Can people still live here? But there are quite a few shops below, feeling like there's about a 60% occupancy rate. The words on the shops are all in Chinese, maybe because there are many Chinese living here. To be honest, it feels like I've stepped into a Chinese neighborhood. Oh my god, look at this car. The rear window is completely broken, and there's this kind of doll inside, giving a feeling of a horror movie.
He arrives at the sales office. The grand lobby looks deserted, with no customers viewing houses, only a security guard watching over.
Wow, this model is beautifully made. This is the Forest City in its ideal state. This tall building is probably abandoned. I didn't see the entire complex. Although Forest City is in Malaysia, it's very close to the border with Singapore, just across the border.
The blogger went to the nearby beach, where despite many amusement facilities, they weren't open due to the scarcity of people. According to his conversation with a local homeowner, in Forest City, about 90% of homeowners are Chinese, primarily from Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangdong. However, due to reasons such as work or visa issues, they don't live here permanently. They only spend a maximum of 1 month here each year. He also learned that when this homeowner bought the house, the price was approximately 15,000 yuan per square meter, which was quite cheap compared to prices in Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangdong. Therefore, the houses here sold very well at that time. However, recently, the property prices here have plummeted drastically, by almost 50%. According to a report by a YouTuber called Robin, in March, a homeowner from Beijing went to the sales office of Forest Lobby to protest. This woman came to take possession of her property after a 2-year delay from the salespeople. When she did, she found that the building did not meet the delivery standards. When she bought the house, she had faith in the developer, Country Garden. She says the tap water comes out like mud, with many bugs in it. Other similar problems have left her frustrated. In 2014, a year after Chinese leader Xi Jinping proposed the Belt and Road Initiative, Country Garden responded by initiating the Forest City mega project. According to official data released by Country Garden, the company planned to invest $100 billion in the Iskandar district of Malaysia, just 2 kilometers across the sea from Singapore. They plan to reclaim land, build 4 artificial islands, and construct a new city with a planned area of 30 square kilometers, aiming for 300,000 housing units to accommodate 700,000 to 1 million people. The developments were expected to take up to 20 years. However, after 10 years, only 15% of the entire project has been completed. Less than 1 island has been completed so far. Although 80% of the 28,000 completed units have sold, the occupancy rate is extremely low, reportedly less than 9,000 non-permanent residents. Additionally, a large number of sold houses have not been delivered as scheduled and remain unfinished. Now, Country Garden is burdened with huge debts, making it unlikely the project will be completed. Let's take a look at what Forest City has gone through. Originally being touted as an intelligent green city, integrating the environment with cutting-edge technology, it has now become a modern ghost town. Back in 2011, Country Garden founder Yang Guoqiang chose Malaysia as the first destination for overseas development. Their first development project was the Country Garden launched in December 2012 in Johor Bahru. That project eventually made nearly 7 billion yuan of sales, making Country Garden the top-selling developer in Malaysia. The Danga Bay project's success motivated Country Garden to invest further and build strong local connections. Around the same time, China announced the Belt and Road Initiative, encouraging its companies to expand overseas. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yang Guoqiang initiated another bold venture, partnering with the Johor state government to develop the Forest City project, aiming to create a brand new city from scratch. The reason for choosing a location 30 kilometers away from Johor Bahru, the southernmost tip of Malaysia, was not only its proximity to Singapore, but also its strategic value and potential. Firstly, the project served as an extension of China's Belt and Road Initiative. Secondly, the region where the project is located is where China Energy Engineering Group is constructing a deep-water port capable of accommodating aircraft carriers and renovating a port in the South China Sea. Therefore, apart from the expansion of Country Garden's commercial empire, there were also hidden ambitions of the CCP for economic and political colonization overseas. Country Garden's ability to undertake such a large project locally was mainly due to the support of Sultan Ibrahim Ismail of Johor. According to official information, the local development company was jointly established with a local company named Esplanade Danga 88 Sendirian Berhad, owning a 40% stake, and the major shareholder behind this Malaysian company was Sultan Ibrahim Ismail. With the participation and support of the Sultan of Johor, the massive construction of Forest City was unstoppable. In order to clear space for construction of artificial islands, diverse seagrass and coastline forests were destroyed. Research institutions in Southeast Asia found that the project also severely impacted local fisheries, causing environmental pollution leading to the death of marine species. Additionally, local fishermen had to fish in farther and more dangerous waters. There were many other environmental issues during this period, but city officials refused to address these problems and proudly promoted the project's so-called environmental restoration plan. What's even more astonishing is that the environmental assessment work was only completed 1 year after the reclamation project began. Essentially, they acted first and reported later. However, due to the proximity of the reclaimed sea area to Singapore, Singapore was concerned about the impact on its marine environment. Under strong protest from international environmental regulatory agencies, the Malaysian Ministry of Environment issued Country Garden an environmental impact assessment on June 6, 2014, and a stop work order in the same month. However, despite the order, reports indicated that construction continued under the approval of former Prime Minister Najib Razak. Furthermore, Country Garden utilized a significant quantity of sand for constructing artificial islands. Malaysian laws require reclamation projects to settle for 10 years before building. However, Country Garden's Forest City began construction within a year of reclamation. This resulted in cracks emerging shortly after construction. These cracks were found in the sales lobby, hotel buildings, and roads as early as 2014. A construction expert stated that the rapid pace of land reclamation prevented the soil from settling properly. He warned that the land was sinking and might continue to do so. Furthermore, in 2015, Forest City obtained approval letters from the local government, which included many preferential policies for education, healthcare, tourism, and taxation, making it the Chinese project with the most local incentives. None of this could have happened without the strong support of the Sultan of Johor. Massive corruption was therefore reported. Next came the sales issues. Although Forest City touted itself as the dream paradise for all mankind, in reality, it targeted middle to high-income Chinese. From the outset of construction, Country Garden compared it to Shenzhen and promoted its proximity to Singapore as a selling point. It even claimed that Forest City had its own customs and immigration checkpoints, allowing residents easy access to Singapore. Another slogan was, "Buy a house and get a permanent residency green card," meaning that buying a house here could grant permanent residency in Malaysia. This was particularly attractive to those wanting foreign citizenship. This would allow their children to take the college entrance exam in China as overseas Chinese because the scoring requirements are lower. To tap into the Chinese market, Country Garden spared no expense. In 2016, Country Garden spent nearly 2 billion yuan on marketing, the largest scale promotion in real estate history. In that year, Forest City achieved sales of nearly 20 billion yuan. However, Chinese buyers who purchased houses soon found themselves deceived. According to Hong Kong 01, Yang Tingting from Beijing took a tour to Malaysia in 2016. Due to the aggressive sales pitch, advertisements she saw in China, and promises of high-speed rail, light rail, green passage to and from Singapore, and the customs bridge, she decided to invest in Johor. At that time, she bought a unit of about 60 square meters for over 1.8 million yuan, approximately 250,000 US dollars, paying nearly 200,000 yuan up front, with the balance financed through third-party loans in China for a period of 10 years, with monthly payments of about 20,000 yuan. The unit she purchased was told to have an unbeatable sea view on the top floor. However, when officially taking possession of the unit, she found that the so-called unbeatable sea view was obstructed by other buildings. She originally didn't want to accept it, but was persuaded by the sales staff. Then, problems popped up one after another. First, she discovered that the property was not for residential use, but rather a commercial condominium. Additionally, the developer's promises to provide tutoring and exam prep, independent customs, tax-free islands, were all unfulfilled. It's now proven that these were just sales gimmicks. According to current Malaysian laws, buying property has no relation to obtaining permanent residency. She also tried to return the property to the developer on the grounds that the developer had unlawfully converted residential units into commercial ones, but her request was rejected. The property remained unrentable and unsellable afterward. She was forced to make payments until August 2021, totaling 5 years of mortgage payments, before finally ceasing further payments. Later, she also met a group of fellow victims, and they formed a rights protection group. Members of the group explained that because of China's strict rules moving money out of the country, the payments they made for the properties went to strange and different places. Some sent money to a supermarket, some to a travel agency, some to a property management company, some to specific employees of Country Garden, and some even sent money to Hong Kong. This made it very hard for them to protect their rights in the future. Surprisingly, one member of the group had bought 10 units and didn't seem very concerned about the situation. They went to various Chinese departments to fight for their rights, but the responses were dismissive, claiming that property overseas was beyond their jurisdiction. Given that about 90% of city buyers were Chinese, Yang Tingting angrily accused Country Garden of targeting their own people. According to the original plan, Forest City was supposed to have its own customs and immigration checkpoints, allowing residents easy access to Singapore. In reality, adjacent to Forest City is the Jurong Industrial Park in Singapore, dominated by heavy industries and petrochemical enterprises, with serious air pollution and poor environmental conditions. According to a local resident familiar with the situation, anyone who knows the local situation well would never buy from Country Garden. The Malaysian economy is not good, especially Johor Bahru, which is barren land with poor security. Educated Malaysians with stable incomes go to work in Singapore and either buy or rent there. Low-income groups who are uneducated live in rented houses. Forest City is too expensive for them. It's not just more expensive than renting a house, it's much more expensive than typical residences in the capital. Even Malaysians know that Forest City is specifically targeting Chinese people. For Chinese people who want to live in Forest City and work in Singapore, they have to wake up before dawn, ride motorcycles to queue up for customs, which takes 4 hours every day. Not only did Chinese buyers regret their purchases, but Forest City also suffered successive blows from policy changes between China and Malaysia. Firstly, in 2017, to prevent massive capital outflows caused by the devaluation of the yuan, China's foreign exchange control policies intensified. Some Country Garden property owners said that they had already paid the down payment but couldn't pay the remaining mortgage due to the controls, and the down payment couldn't be refunded. This directly led to Forest City losing almost the entire Chinese market, and sales plummeted from over 20 billion yuan in 2016 to less than 7 billion yuan in 2018. Furthermore, in 2018, changes in Malaysia's political landscape dealt a fatal blow to Forest City. 92-year-old Mahathir Mohamad won the election that year. As soon as Mahathir came to power, he commented on Forest City, pointing out that the project was built for foreigners, especially Chinese, as Malaysians couldn't afford such high housing prices. He said, "This is not Chinese investment, it's colonization." He even loudly proclaimed that foreigners who wanted to live in Forest City would not get visas, saying it's best for Forest City to truly become a forest and let monkeys live there. At the National and Indigenous Prospects Conference in September of that year, Mahathir explained his reasons. If 3 million Chinese were allowed to immigrate to Malaysia, locals would find it difficult to compete with them. Despite clarifications from the Prime Minister's office, the Johor Palace, and Country Garden, the damage to Forest City had already been done. Moreover, Najib Razak, a long-term friend of Country Garden and the former Prime Minister of Malaysia, was imprisoned that year due to corruption issues. As a result, this Grand Forest City project came to a standstill. The subsequent 3 years of the pandemic, coupled with travel bans, further limited Forest City's sales. The most expensive ghost city was born. However, the owners here seem to have a glimmer of hope recently. On August 25, 2023, Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim announced that the government would designate Forest City in the Iskandar Economic Zone as a financial zone and provide a fast entry and exit channel for workers in Singapore. Qualified skilled workers working in the financial zone would also enjoy a 15% special income tax rate. This undoubtedly was good news for Forest City. However, it's still too early to say that Forest City can turn the tide now. Forest City remains the same, with most shops on the main commercial street closed or vacant. Currently, most of the people living here are Forest City employees, families of students enrolled in local international schools, or port workers with tenant cards for entry and exit. The beach and duty-free tobacco and alcohol still attract sporadic visitors. Forest City mirrors the problems currently faced by Chinese real estate companies. According to industry estimates in China, there are currently as many as 8 million unfinished buildings nationwide, requiring 2 trillion yuan to complete. Coupled with the impact of the bleak real estate market, corporate funding is not going smoothly. After the Evergrande crisis, both domestic and foreign real estate investment projects have been severely affected, especially in terms of liquidity. Moreover, Country Garden has been in a debt crisis since last year. Therefore, owners who have made payments but who have not received their homes have been worried about unfinished housing, and future planned development projects are even further away. With China's increasing control over funds and even personnel, it's difficult for Country Garden's bleak situation to turn around, and perhaps the name Ghost City will be hard to erase.